If Kareem Hunt gets into the starting lineup, it's top 5 running back production in 2020. Plain and simple. Top 5 running back.
You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
Smitty.
Take a lap.
There is no bigger win-a-league stash and grab than Kareem Hunt. Not only can he be a flex-worthy player for you out the gate in 2020, he can win you a league if he gets into that Stefanski run offense. We know what Stefanski did with Dalvin Cook in Minnesota last year. Now that he's in Cleveland, he's going to funnel everything through the running game much like he did in Minnesota. Great news for Nick Chubb. Great news for Kareem Hunt. A lot of people are going to be scared off by the presence of Kareem Hunt in this offense because people will say,
"Oh my God, did you see how badly Chubb did?" Or
how badly his numbers dropped off once Hunt returned and took some action away from him. This is now a Stefanski offense. You can't use last year's production and numbers and try and predict what's going to happen in 2020. They literally run everything through the running back. And there's enough carries, reception, and workload to go around to make Kareem Hunt a very productive running back without hurting the value of Nick Chubb. It's different than last year. You guys have to let go of last year and how this worked out. It's a different offense and in a different system. But the key takeaway here is that if you draft Nick Chubb, you have to get Kareem Hunt. And the problem is he oftentimes will go in the 6th round. Who wants to use their 6th rounder to back up another position they've already drafted? I get it. My solution here is to trade your 7th and 8th rounder for a high 6th round pick. That way you can grab Kareem Hunt without touching any of your original top 6 overall picks. And who cares about a 7th and 8th rounder when it means you can secure your top 5 overall selection and get that top 5 guaranteed running back production in that Stefanski-led offense. It's worth it. It's worth giving up any depth that might even be sitting there at 7th and 8th round value. It's one of the craftiest ways to secure that spot. And this goes for anybody that even wants to trade up into that opportunity, even if they don't have Chubb. Let's be honest, it seems a little costly to draft a player that isn't guaranteed anything more than flex type production at 6th round value, but it's a must for Chubb owners, and it's a creative way to get into a win-a-league player at a cost, if you're crafty, you can get for a 7th and 8th rounder combined. If Kareem Hunt gets into the starting lineup, it's top 5 running back production in 2020. Plain and simple. You're talking about Dalvin Cook production, and Kareem Hunt is every bit as good talent-wise as every other running back below McCaffrey, Barkley, maybe Cook and Elliott. Kareem Hunt has that kind of skill set. He proved it already at the NFL level, and he still got it. And in this offense, good running backs will look great, and he's a potentially great running back already. So imagine the numbers this guy would crank out if leaned upon in full send fashion. I own Kareem Hunt in probably 50% of my 10 or 11 leagues that I've already drafted in, and he's the player that excites me the most on my bench and in my flex spot heading into 2020. My number one stash win a league grab. Alexander Mattison's number 2. We saw Alexander Mattison do really well in 2019. Granted, Stefanski's gone. I've just talked about him. Now he's in Cleveland. Some concern about that offense continuing on and playing at the same rate and level it was with Stefanski gone. I'm going to admit, I have a little bit of concern about that. For the most part, I don't think they're going to change things too much. It's going to be a run-heavy system. They added an elite rookie wide receiver to help keep defenses honest. I think that will help. And what we do know is if Cook went down, Mattison, skill set wise, wouldn't miss too much of a beat. This is a guy that has top 5 to 10 running back appeal if ever given starts pretty much in any decent offense, and Minnesota will be built to run the football well regardless of the departure of Stefanski. So while he does have flex appeal in larger leagues, not to the extent Kareem Hunt has, but he does have that kind of appeal where he could get a touchdown, 30, 40 yards on the ground. They run enough in Minnesota, and they will in 2020, to afford him that kind of workload. That's flex-worthy value out the gate in larger leagues. But if he gets into that offense, he has about as much upside as Kareem Hunt, in my opinion. These are 2 win-a-league stashes in 2020. Both of these top 2 guys have flex-worthy appeal right away. They have standalone value, but win-a-league value as well. Tony Pollard. This kid's talented, and if you forget how highly touted this guy was last year when Zeke Elliott was threatening to hold out, you're maybe blocking it out. People were going to take Pollard in the third round. People were taking Pollard in the third round in many early draft cases because they predicted Zeke Elliott to hold out. But even the most pessimistic reports said maybe 5, week 6, week 7, week 8 maybe, and people still drafted this kid in the late third round. What does that say about him? That he would explode in that offense of starting games, even for half of a year. People were willing to bet, a season on it at third round value. That's how much people like this kid in that offense, and I don't blame anyone. With no threat of holdout, with that sour taste that Pollard left in people's mouths last year because he was drafted really high and wasn't even used as a starter, it's very possible people don't want to go near him in 2020, relating that disappointment with his name. So I think you should fully expect this kid to fall too far, way too far. He's going to have bargain type value in many redraft situations, but in Dynasty, he still, I think, isn't going to climb too high. These top 3 guys are absolute fire. That's why I have fire emojis next to each one. They're deserving of a fire emoji on the show. They're deserving of a bell ring on the show. But Tony Pollard, Alexander Mattison, Kareem Hunt all have top 10 running back appeal if starting games for their team. Per start, they will be top 10 running backs. Go get Tony Pollard, whether you own Zeke or not. And if you own Zeke, you have to be a complete to not have this guy handcuffed to Zeke Elliott. Same thing for Mattison. Kareem Hunt's a little more understandable if you don't find a way to draft him super high and you can't afford to. It makes sense in Kareem Hunt's case to sometimes try and let him fall and then you miss out on that opportunity. But you have zero excuse not getting Mattison and Pollard cuffed to your Cook and Zeke Elliott. You just have no excuse. Don't walk out of your draft or I'll be extremely disappointed in you. J.K. Dobbins. I love J.K. Dobbins. I've made it no secret all offseason long. He's one of my favorite running backs in this draft class. His skill set's through the roof. I like him way more than Swift. I like him way more, 100 times more than Cam Akers. And he fell into a quietly amazing situation for the future. The problem is Mark Ingram's not going to just hand the keys over to that starting lineup position. He is a leader. He is a good running back. He did really well last year. The team loves him. He has good rapport with Lamar Jackson. So when healthy, JK is going to have to get what he can where he can. He's not taking anything away from Mark Ingram until Mark Ingram falters or gets hurt, which could be next year. It could be mid-season. Mark Ingram's no spring chicken. He could get hurt midway through the year. If he does, J.K. Dobbins wins you a league. If he doesn't, J.K. Dobbins still could be sprinkled in at some point as a flex-worthy guy. He's worth stashing and waiting because of the upside if he gets into the lineup, if he's starting games for the Baltimore Ravens. I'd venture to say top 7 to 10 is definitely possible. If he's entrenched in that lineup for multiple weeks, he gets to learn things and progress and get better and better. If it's like 1 or 2 weeks per start, I give him like 9 to 14 overall running back value per start early on. But a heavy dose of him, let's say something happened to Ingram like week 4, and it's J.K. Dobbins time. It's the J.K. Dobbins show on out from week 5 on. He will eventually get in that top 10 running back value range and finish within that top 10, I think, on that kind of workload type season. I love both these guys. I love all 4 of these players right here. My top 4 win a league stashes and grabs. Again, they have different levels and layers. Kareem Hunt is flex worthy out the gate. Mattison kind of in larger leagues. And then these 2 are more the stash variety. But all of them have win a league potential. Here are a couple other players worth mentioning. Darrell Henderson's back in the...
Oh, I doubt him. He's not going to do well. Cam Akers is the guy.
Even though Henderson's probably going to start off the year splitting the starting job, rookies will start off slow. That's a common theme you're seeing on my show. Rookies will not be exploding out of the gate. Guys like Cam Akers are not going to be handed the keys to the starting lineup as a rookie with a modified and shortened offseason. Is just not going to happen. So Henderson, while he should be ranked higher than Cam Akers, is not. People are more excited about Cam Akers. I'm not. I'm not relying on that Rams coaching staff for anything. But when it comes to risk versus reward, Henderson's falling into the very, very low risk range again, and his upside is massive, even though there's still a ton of risk that the team doesn't know what they have sitting in front of them. I'll argue Henderson versus Cam Akers all offseason. I don't care. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. People will say,
Smitty, I can't believe you're not giving up on Darrell Henderson. Let it go. You failed. That experiment didn't work.
Off his 30 horrible carries, bad blocking, bad offense, bad coaching, bad everything, that might not change. I'm not telling you it's going to for sure change. I'm not telling you to count on Darrell Henderson, but I love how I'm being told to let go of the Darrell Henderson experiment after 30 NFL carries. I'm supposed to give up, admit my defeat, lower my sword, lower my cane. I say never. You'll have to remove this cane from my lifeless fingers before I will lower this cane and admit defeat with Darrell Henderson before the 2020 season has even kicked off. Before we've even seen the Rams do what they did to Darrell Henderson to Cam Akers. Cam Akers is guaranteed nothing. And Cam Akers is a raw talent that isn't a patient runner, that doesn't wait for holes to develop, doesn't wait to read defenses, and he's got a lot of glaring problems in terms of his footwork, the way he lowers his head at every single corner and collision that he creates, trying to take down two defenders at a time, completely lowering his head. It's not something he does on rare occasion. It's his signature collision type move. Lower his head, literally ram that head into two defenders at a time. That's not going to work at the NFL level. He will get hurt, and it's going to be hard for him to unlearn that. From my lifeless fingers, you will not be able to pry this cane away from me. You hear me? Lat Murray is another great handcuff that if Kamara goes down, Lat Murray can produce top 10-ish running back numbers. Make no mistake about it. And he's a must-have handcuff for you Kamara owners. You should be ashamed of yourself if you've already drafted and you don't have the two cuffed. Chase Edmonds and maybe Benjamin. We got to kind of see how it shakes out. But right now it's Edmonds. He is the cuff to own for Drake owners. You must own the two running backs together. I love Kenyon Drake, top 5 to 10 running back in 2020. But I'm going to tell you almost every time that comes out of my mouth, you have to own the duo. Whatever player is cuffed to him, and right now it's Edmonds. I don't see why it would be Benjamin. Like I said, with rookies coming along so slowly with this modified offseason, give me Edmonds and Drake all day long. That offense almost protects whoever's starting into top 10 running back numbers. A must cuff, a great late stash if you're able to put him on roster. AJ Dillon could be a TD hog if Aaron Jones went down, a guy that's been very lazy in the past. And no one liked Aaron Jones more than I did walking into 2019. He's on my top 6 bold predictions for 2019. And I feel like with this kind of offseason he's being dealt, it's going to be hard for a guy like that that's been very lazy in the past to stay in shape, which has led to every one of his injuries, I'm sure. And so with this kind of offseason, I'm not banking on Aaron Jones being completely where he needs to be physically, mentally, emotionally. And Dillon coming in's got to rub him the wrong way. And if he's not staying in pristine physical condition like he did last year, the only reason I think he stayed healthy all year, which is why I liked him, because he was chiseled, ready to go, and he had an amazing offseason. Without that, I'm banking on something happening, and Dillon might walk you into a string of games where he dominates for you at the running back 2 spot on your team. Zack Moss, I like him in Buffalo. If something should happen to Devin Singletary, I think he is dependent on something happening to Devin Singletary. A great cuff if you own Devin Singletary. And one of the deepest sleepers on this list would be Boston Scott. I'm not a huge fan of Miles Sanders. That's no secret here. Not so much that I don't like his skill set. I like him a lot. He's got a lot of talent. But the Eagles don't always stick to one running back. That's proven. And Miles Sanders needs to prove at his frame, his rushing style, that he can stay healthy and deliver elite production from what I believe will be a sharing type workload. And Boston Scott, if forced to start games because, let's say, Sanders gets hurt, will be a great player to have on your bench waiting in the wings to help you win down the stretch when you need it most. This is probably one of the more helpful videos you're going to find for all of 2020, because these are the running backs that can help you win your league. These are the guys that have the monster breakout value, the sleeper value, that can absolutely have you crushing people if things play out right for you, and you have one of these guys waiting on your roster for the green light. Subscribe. Follow. Don't forget, if you ever get lost and you can't find your way back to this show, just go to Smitty1.com.
Smitty1.com.
Subscribe, follow, tell your friends. I don't care if it's your grandma. Tell everyone about the show. And get on over to sleeperu.com and get your bold content, your bold rankings, everything rookie related. It's all there waiting for you. Top 5 running back.
You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
Smitty,